Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Donald Trump has fired a fresh salvo in the tariff war. He says the US has, quote-unquote, lost India and Russia to what he calls deepest, darkest China. Trump posted a message on Truth Social. He shared an old image of Prime Minister Modi, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping standing together. India has not responded, but Trump is delivering yet another loud message that he is watching New Delhi's moves and he won't pull his punches. But here's the irony. Trump says India is drifting away. The rest of the world sees something else. They believe that India is stepping up, that India is ready to serve as a peace channel in the war in Ukraine. Events in the last 24 hours prove it. After meeting Putin, Prime Minister Modi has spoken to European leaders. India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is engaging with Ukraine. He has spoken to his counterpart in Kiev. And tonight we will decode the shifting global dynamic. We'll also tell you how Ukraine is targeting Russia's energy facilities, why big tech is trying to win over Donald Trump, how pizza orders at the Pentagon may predict the next war. Thailand has picked its third prime minister in 2 years. We'll tell you who he is and what he brings to the table. Why China is backing out of a major Belt and Road project in Pakistan and how air pollution is driving deadly forms of dementia. All this and more coming up. The headlines first.
In India, Mumbai on high alert after the police receive a bomb threat warning of attacks in the financial hub which is celebrating the Ganesh festival. The threat via WhatsApp said that multiple bombs had been placed in vehicles across the city. The sender also claimed that 14 Pakistani terrorists have entered India. Britain's Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner resigns after an investigation found she breached the ministerial code by underpaying on a property tax. This is a major blow to Prime Minister Keir Starmer's embattled Labour government, which has lurched from one storm to another since sweeping to power in July 2024. Pakistan's government says we decide who stays in our country. The remark comes after the United Nations refugee chief urged the country to pause its mass expulsion of Afghans following a major earthquake. Pakistan has hosted Afghans fleeing violence and humanitarian crises for more than 4 decades. But in 2023, Pakistan's government launched a crackdown to evict them, citing an uptick in violent attacks. Hundreds of South Koreans detained during a major US immigration raid which took place on a Hyundai LG battery plant being built in the state of Georgia. The incident prompted Seoul to urge Washington to respect its citizens' rights. South Korea is a key automaker and has multiple plants in the US. And the World Health Organization recommends a range of weight loss drugs to treat diabetes and obesity globally for the first time. It also called for cheap generic versions to be made available for people in developing countries.
A new day, a new post from Donald Trump. Guess he's finally discovered the SCO summit photos and let's just say he did not like what he saw. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin all smiling, all huddled together, standing in the same frame this week. And Donald Trump? Well, he couldn't help itself, it seems. On Truth Social, he has finally fired away and this is what he said, I'm quoting, "Looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together." Yes, that's a real quote. Clearly, the picture stung. They rattled him enough to go public with a post like this because to Trump, this is not just a photo op. It's a picture of America getting left out. And it's understandable. Donald Trump is waging a trade war on the whole world. He has sanctioned India for buying Russian oil, a purchase that Washington itself encouraged for the last 3 years. His advisors are lecturing India every day. They're playing good cop, bad cop. So no, Trump did not lose India. He pushed India to look for other partners. And here's the the other irony. Donald Trump may see India slipping away, but the rest of the world sees India stepping up as peace mediator for the war in Ukraine. The last 24 hours have made one thing crystal clear. New Delhi can speak to everyone in this game. The West dials India, Moscow listens to India, Kiev appeals to India, and that places New Delhi in a unique position to lead the peace negotiations. Yesterday, Prime Minister Modi received a call from European leaders. The two sides had a lot to discuss. But of course, in focus was the war in Ukraine. EU chief Ursula von der Leyen said it best in a post on X. She said, and I quote, "India has an important role to play in bringing Russia to end its war of aggression and helping create a path towards peace." Why? Because Brussels knows it cannot get the Russian president on the line, but the Indian Prime Minister can. In fact, just this week, Prime Minister Modi met President Vladimir Putin at the SCO summit in Tianjin, China. They held a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the summit. And there too, Prime Minister Modi called for a swift end to the war, emphasizing on the need for peace.
एक्सेलेंसी, यूक्रेन में चल रहे संघर्ष के विषय में हम लगातार चर्चा करते रहे हैं। हाल में किए गए शांति के सभी प्रयासों का हम स्वागत करते हैं। हम आशा करते हैं कि सभी पक्ष कंस्ट्रक्टिवली आगे बढ़ेंगे, संघर्ष को जल्द से जल्द खत्म करने और स्थायी शांति स्थापित करने का रास्ता खोजना होगा। ये पूरी मानवता की पुकार है।
Prime Minister Modi and President Putin also rode in the same car. They spent almost an hour together in the car. And what did they discuss? Well, Putin says they talked about the Alaska meeting, his meeting with Donald Trump. Modi and Putin talked about it in detail in China.
I shared with him what I had discussed with Trump at the Alaska summit, and we planned the way forward.
Meanwhile, India is also in touch with Kiev. India's Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, also spoke to his Ukrainian counterpart. Kiev admitted that it relies on India and India's quote-unquote authoritative voice. That's diplomatic speak for one thing. We need you in the room. The two leaders agreed to meet in New York during the United Nations General Assembly, which happens later this month. Also, ahead of the SCO summit, Prime Minister Modi spoke to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The two leaders focused on peace and stability. Zelensky called the conversation, and I'm quoting, a productive and important dialogue. He took to social media to add that India is ready to make the necessary efforts and to deliver the right signal to Russia. And what signal is that? An immediate ceasefire. Zelensky says India is ready to urge Russia to agree to a ceasefire. That tells you a lot. Kiev appreciates New Delhi's unique vantage point, which is why it is repeatedly engaging. So India is speaking with both sides, and it has re-emphasized its efforts at the United Nations.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains in touch with President Putin, President Zelensky, and European leadership on the evolving situation. We believe all these diplomatic efforts hold the promise of bringing to an end the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and opening up prospects for a lasting peace.
That was India's ambassador to the United Nations, P. Harish. He reiterated what has been India's position since the war began, that we need dialogue over battlefield, diplomacy over destruction. So Trump may thunder about brokering peace, but diplomacy is not a TV show. It is about trust. And right now, India has it. The West trusts India because it has remained neutral. Moscow trusts India because it never lectures. Kiev trusts India because it has not abandoned dialogue. And this combination makes New Delhi the rare capital that everyone is willing to engage with. And let's be clear about one thing. India did not set out to be the world's peace mediator. It is not sending planes of negotiators or even promising miracle deadlines. What India has done is keep its channels open, its message consistent, and its diplomacy pragmatic. And in today's fractured world, that may just be the most powerful form of mediation there is. This week was supposed to mark a turning point in the war in Ukraine. The peace negotiations were supposed to begin. Instead, we are witnessing an escalation. Ukraine is striking deep inside Russia again. It is going after the backbone of the Russian economy, the energy infrastructure, the oil and gas fields. Ukraine is striking refineries, depots, and pipelines. and the impact is being felt across Russia. Many Russians are experiencing shortages at fuel pumps. And how is Ukraine executing these strikes? Well, they're using drones. They've scaled up production in a big way. One of their drones is called the FP1. It first appeared in May. Today, it makes up 60% of Ukraine's strikes inside Russia. Ukraine is producing around 100 FP1 drones every day. Each one carries a warhead of 60 to 120 kilos. Now, with a lighter load, it can fly up to 1,600 kilometers. And this one is cheap. One FP1 costs about $55,000, which is much cheaper compared to what others are using. So that's the weapon that the Ukrainians are using, and the purpose is quite clear. Kiev wants to choke Russia's energy revenues. It wants to hit the Kremlin's war chest. In fact, we have some data. This year, 40% of Ukraine's long-range strikes have targeted energy facilities. Last month, Ukraine stepped up these strikes. It has hit more than a dozen refineries so far. Reports say up to 20% of Russia's refining capacity is offline. That's about 1 million barrels a day. This supply has disappeared from the market. Ukraine is targeting vital equipment at these facilities. It has damaged crackers in oil facilities. What are crackers? Crackers are basically big machines. They take in crude and they process it into petrol and diesel. Now, repairing these machines, these crackers, is a challenge because Russia needs spare parts from the West. And because of sanctions, the supply of spare parts has become a challenge. So Ukraine has struck a key Russian weakness, and the impact is showing. Reports say Russia's oil output is already down by 13%. This has led to fuel rationing. Supplies are being held back in regions like Crimea, Siberia, and the Far East. And in some areas, there are queues at fuel pumps. So there is a supply shortage. And as a result of this, energy prices are soaring. We have numbers from last month again. Wholesale prices reached a record high. They touched about $1,000 for a ton. This is for AI-95 gasoline. This is a type of fuel. It's one of the most commonly used type. Since January, prices are up by 50%. Experts blame Ukrainian attacks for this. They say it has damaged refineries and forced major energy facilities to shut down. So the supplies were already under stress, and now Ukraine has increased the intensity of its strikes, and that is putting more pressure. So how is Moscow responding? It has been forced to restrict exports. In the month of August, Russia banned gasoline exports. This ban was meant to end in September, but now officials are considering an extension until October. So 1 more month. So there are clear signs of a strain. The Russian president has admitted this himself. He gave a statement in Vladivostok. Putin said that Russia faces a gas shortage. He spoke of problems in the Far East. Now, Putin did not directly name Ukraine, but the indication was quite clear. And going by their record, Moscow will hit back. You see, every time Ukraine has struck deep inside Russia, Moscow has responded with force. There's no reason to believe that this time will be different. So expect a strong retaliation in the coming days. By the looks of it, the fighting will only intensify from here. Trump loves the word tariff the way some people love discount. He says it like it's a gift. And the latest item in his crosshairs are chips, semiconductors. They're the backbone of the modern world. Phones, cars, refrigerators, even your overpriced tech-laced toothbrush. They all run on chips. Now, Trump's pitch is quite simple. Build them in the United States and you're safe. Build them anywhere else and you face tariffs. How much? Well, no one knows at this point. Earlier, Trump had hinted that it could be as high as 100%. He even mentioned 200 to 300%. Of course, hyperbole is the US president's strong suit. But this is something that he's been talking about and planning for some time.
I've discussed it with the people here, chips and semiconductors, and we'll be putting tariffs on companies that aren't coming in. We'll be putting a tariff very shortly. You probably are hearing we'll be putting a fairly substantial tariff on, not that high, but fairly substantial tariff, with the understanding that if they come into the country, if they're coming in, building, planning to come in, there will not be a tariff.
So Trump is wielding quite a big stick. At the same time, he's dangling a carrot too. Companies that build plants in the US get a free pass. Companies like Apple. CEO Tim Cook has already promised to invest hundreds of billions into US manufacturing, so Apple gets a free pass. Now, of course, this was an important announcement, and Trump chose the perfect place to make it, at a huddle with America's big tech. And it was quite the scene. Trump in the middle, Apple CEO Tim Cook on one side, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg on the other. Further down, you had Sam Altman of OpenAI and Sergey Brin of Google. It's like the Avengers of Silicon Valley. Except they were all fighting for Trump's approval instead of saving the world.
Well, thanks for hosting us. I mean, this is quite a group to get together, and I think we don't often get together as the CEOs of the different companies, but it's good to see everyone.
I think it's a real incredible inflection point right now in AI, and the fact that your administration is supporting our companies instead of fighting with them.
I appreciate that your administration had a constructive dialogue and we were able to get it to some resolution. I would echo what Sergey said. I think the AI moment is one of the most transformative moments any of us have ever seen or will see in our lifetimes.
Each CEO took a turn playing hype man. Zuckerberg thanked Trump for quote-unquote setting the tone. Bill Gates praised the major investment climate. Sam Altman gushed about Trump being pro-business. It was less a dinner conversation and more a standing ovation on loop. If you closed your eyes, you might even think that you walked into a Trump campaign rally instead of a policy meeting.
And Tim, how much money will Apple be investing in the United States? Because I know it's a very lot, and it's, you were elsewhere and now you're really coming home in a big way. How much money will you be investing?
$600 billion.
$600 billion, all right? It's a lot of jobs.
We're very proud to do it.
And this was not just about chips. It was about the AI gold rush. Every company at the table is pouring billions into artificial intelligence, and they all know one thing. Whoever sits in the Oval Office will shape the rules. So they're cozying up to Donald Trump, hoping that he will keep the leash off regulation. And here's the interesting bit. The person missing at the table, the world's richest man, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, he was not there. He says he was invited. He says he sent a representative. But let's not forget something here. Just months ago, Musk and Trump had a very public spat. The two have gone their separate ways since then. So Musk's absence speaks louder than his presence would. And as big tech woos Trump, here's the serious part. You see, chips are not just building blocks for gadgets. They're about national security. Increasingly, they're geopolitical leverage. For years, the US has been trying to onshore chip making. TSMC, Samsung, Intel, everyone is pouring billions into US factories. So Trump's threat is less about economics and more about politics. It's about showing that he can strong-arm the world's richest companies into investing in America. And the tech CEOs know it. That is why they showed up, they smiled, and they played along. So strip away the policy talk, and what do you see here? Trump in his favorite role as ringmaster and tech billionaires as his eager acrobats. It's a performance. Everyone knows it. But will Trump actually slap those tariffs? Maybe he will, maybe he won't. His track record on follow-through has been mixed. But one thing is clear. The world's most powerful tech CEOs are treating Donald Trump like the man who holds their future. As for Elon Musk, staying away might have been the smartest play. After all, every circus needs a missing act. Our next story tonight is about three unlikely words: Pentagon, pizza, and parade. When China held its high-profile military parade, something strange was happening in Washington. According to reports, pizza orders surged in the US Capitol, specifically in and around the Pentagon. Now, this might sound like a coincidence, maybe just a hungry day at the Department of Defense, but turns out this was not a one-off instance. Experts have seen a trend. They've seen this before major military operations, before key decisions are made, even during the build-up to an international conflict. Pizza orders from the Pentagon tend to spike. This phenomenon is so common, it has a name. It's called the Pentagon Pizza Index. But what's behind this? And does the theory hold water, or is this just a cheesy conspiracy? Here's a report.
Recently, China held its military parade. More than 24 foreign leaders came under one roof. But as Beijing put everything on display, from troops and weapons to diplomatic signaling and optics, something strange was cooking on the opposite end of the world. Pizzas. Lots of them. Just as the Chinese parade commenced, pizza orders flooded Washington. Specifically, in and around the Pentagon, the headquarters of the Department of Defense. Analysts saw a spike in pizza orders. Customer traffic data from Domino's near the Pentagon hit more than 4 times its usual level, while orders at the nearby Papa John's restaurant tripled. So analysts and internet sleuths connected the pepperoni dots and determined that the so-called Pentagon Pizza Index had struck again. This is an unofficial indicator. It talks about the volume of orders from restaurants near the Pentagon, under the assumption that when the Defense Department personnel is busy, they love to eat junk food. So many analysts say that the Pentagon Pizza Index can be used to estimate the amount of overtime worked by the Pentagon. But is this theory true? The Pentagon has not commented on it. After all, they have bigger problems to handle, like an unnecessary rebrand. U.S. President Donald Trump wants to sign an executive order authorizing the U.S. Department of Defense to rebrand itself as the Department of War. Even though the U.S. has never really won a modern war, not in Iraq, not in Afghanistan. But this is Trump's attempt to formalize the name change without reason and without an act of Congress. He has regularly talked about it.
We had an unbelievable history of victory when it was Department of War. Then we changed it to Department of Defense.
Taxonomical troubles aside, the Pentagon Pizza Index is far from scientific. But at the same time, it is not something that the internet has just made up either. From political analysts to software engineers, all kinds of people have been tracking pizza activity around the military complex. For instance, last month, orders from pizza shops near the Pentagon surged during 2 military parade rehearsals held in Beijing. Something similar happened in the month of June. The timing of Israel's attack on Iran was top secret, but about an hour before Tehran reported explosions, pizza orders around the Pentagon went through the roof. Soon, this happened again. Pizzerias experienced a huge surge in activity. And less than an hour later, Trump announced that the U.S. had attacked 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Pentagon-adjacent pizza joints got busier last year as well, during Israel's 2024 missile strike on Iran. And this is not a new phenomenon. In 1989, pizza deliveries to the Pentagon reportedly doubled right before the U.S. invasion of Panama. They again surged before Operation Desert Storm during the Gulf War in 1991. Is this coincidence or Calzone-coded clairvoyance? Can pizza orders predict military action in the U.S. or anywhere else in the world? It seems a bit far-fetched, given that adversaries usually rely on satellite imagery, intercepted communications, or AI analysis. But if garden-variety, cheesy conspiracies are to your taste, then like many analysts around the world, feel free to follow the pizza. Because sometimes, the hottest tip-off comes with cheese.
Now to a Network 18 exclusive. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman sat down with Group Editor-in-Chief Rahul Joshi. This comes just days after she announced major cuts to India's consumption tax. That's GST, the Goods and Services Tax. Sitharaman said that she's confident that the new rates will roll out on September 22nd. She also spoke about tariffs and how they could affect India's reform agenda. She countered comments made by US President Donald Trump and also those made by his aides on India and its economy. Trump's latest comments on India have sparked quite a stir today. He said, "We have lost India and Russia to China." Here's an excerpt from that conversation.
What was the vision behind this? What did the Prime Minister tell you? How did it come about?
Well, the Prime Minister did announce it from the Red Fort on Independence Day. But even about 8 months ago, he called me once and had a long talk about how GST can be, revamped, looked at. When next opportunity came, I went, gave him a detailed description. Is that I just want, as I said at the first meeting, the simplistic or simplified, not simplistic, simplified way of doing business, and also like the way we did in the budget, respecting the middle class, respecting the taxpayer. We need to do something for the day-to-day indirect tax which falls on every Indian citizen in some way or the other. So this tax is something which touches the lives of every citizen, and therefore we need to be a lot more sensitive. So I went back with this comment, redid it, sharp focused it, and that's how this proposal came.
So Q1 GDP numbers are heartening, 7.8%. At a time when President Trump said that India is a dead economy. How do you react to something like that?
India requires its citizens to be respected. They are toiling and struggling and working to build their families and their economies, their own personal family wealth and whatever. At this time when we are trying to create more opportunities, do we need the naysayers to even borrow such observations, be it as it may that it is coming from a head of state? Do we need our own people to use these expressions? It is undermining not the government, you're undermining our citizens' efforts. And a responsible opposition, I wished didn't repeat these lines, but I think it is, I would react only to what our people are saying rather than a head of state elsewhere.
Now that tariffs with the US are at 50%, what is the likely impact on the GDP going forward?
So it is very clear that industries have been speaking about the tariff and its impact. The government has designed something for itself. We will come out with something to handhold those who are hit by the 50% tariff from the US.
Nirmalaji, will we also continue to buy Russian oil?
Yes, that's been made very plain and simple. Whether it is Russian oil or anything else, it's our decision to buy from the place which suits our needs, whether in terms of rates, logistics, anything.
Nirmalaji, India and China are now mending sort of fences. So, right now it is at the level of resuming the flights and giving visas to each other. But what could be the next steps? How could we make the Chinese markets more accessible to Indian companies? There is, of course, a huge deficit of $100 billion here. So how do we do that? I mean, what are the next steps?
There's just a lot of work to be done in that area. There's no hiding it. We need to have trade conversations, market access conversations, non-tariff barrier conversations with the Chinese. Unless we do that, and unless there is a true engagement and not a procrastinating engagement, you may talk as much as you want on these issues. I've done it myself, and to have a conclusion arrived at takes a lot of time with the Chinese.
If you've been following Thai politics lately, you might need a scorecard. Thailand has a new prime minister, again. Actually, this makes it 3 prime ministers in just 2 years. And yes, it is as chaotic as it sounds. The new prime minister is a man called Anutin Charnvirakul. Think of him as a political Swiss army knife. He's a business tycoon, health minister, former deputy premier, and a COVID-19 czar. He's 58 years old and he comes from a wealthy family. He even owns a few planes. The best part, he knows how to negotiate Bangkok's notoriously tricky political waters. Most famously, he led Thailand's campaign to liberalize marijuana laws in 2022, turning him into a household name in the country. And now he is their prime minister. His party, Bhum Jae Thai, or Proud to be Thai, has just 69 seats in parliament, which is not enough to govern alone. But the Prime Minister is a master deal maker. He pulled off a strategic break from the coalition with the Shinawatras. And then he secured the backing of the opposition People's Party.
The Phomjaithai Party and all 146 members of parliament who have come together to form this government have given their names to the People's Party, pledging to support me as Prime Minister and form a government based on the People Party's proposal.
The People's Party is the largest party in parliament, so Anutin now gets to form a government.
N18G Charnvirakul has obtained the majority of the votes from members of the parliament. Therefore, the meeting has agreed to elect N18G Charnvirakul as Prime Minister under Section 159 of the Constitution. Congratulations.
In return, he promised a national election within 4 months, also a process to amend the military-drafted constitution. But why does Thailand have a new Prime Minister? Well, the previous Prime Minister, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, was removed by Thailand's Constitutional Court only last week. This was over a leaked phone call. A phone call between her, then Prime Minister of Thailand, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, and Hun Sen. That's the President and longtime leader of Cambodia. The Prime Minister of Thailand and the President of Cambodia, they had a phone call. When the armies clashed last month, Paetongtarn called Hun Sen. After all, they were longtime family friends, so she addressed him as uncle. And she slammed the Thai military in that conversation. This was supposed to be a confidential call, but it was leaked. And that too by Hun Sen, the Cambodian leader. That leak took the job of the Thai Prime Minister.
First of all, in paying respect to the judicial process, I accept the Constitutional Court's verdict. However, speaking as a Thai person, I would like to insist on my pure intention and true determination to serve the country all along. The phone conversation that was leaked, I did not ask for anything for my personal interest.
That means the infamous Shinawatra family is back on the sidelines. Now, this is a party of dynasts. It has always been led by Shinawatra. Paetongtarn's father was a prime minister, so was her aunt. Her dismissal marks the 6th time a Shinawatra-backed government has been ousted, either by the courts or a military intervention. Now, Thaksin Shinawatra recently flew to Dubai for medical treatment. This is ahead of a court hearing that could land him back in jail. The family's populist policies once won them massive support, but their political fortunes remain dicey now. So what happens next? Well, the new Prime Minister is leading a minority government. His coalition is transactional. His partners are reluctant. And for now, his mandate is temporary. The People's Party is not formally joining the government. The biggest party, it is not formally joining the government, just supporting the Prime Minister from outside. They're only lending support to ensure stability until the upcoming elections. And that means Anutin has 4 months to make an impact before voters get another say, before another election is held. And what does this mean for Thailand? Well, this country has a long history of court interventions, political coups, and rapid government changes. The king and the palace have long exerted influence behind the scenes, from endorsing coup leaders to shaping party alignments to pressuring political figures. The previous government only existed after a reformist party was blocked from forming a government. And even then, its leaders were banned from politics. So the cycle of uncertainty seems set to continue. For Anutin, it's a test of both political savvy and stamina. For Thailand, it's another chapter in a dramatic story that mixes dynastic power struggles and royal influence. So yes, Thailand has a new Prime Minister, but if history is any guide, this story is far from over. Now to Pakistan. Its Belt and Road investments have hit a turning point. China is holding back. It has pulled out of funding a key railway project. This forced Islamabad to look elsewhere. So Pakistan turned to the Asian Development Bank. Reports say a $2 billion loan is now on the table. If approved, it would be the first of its kind. A Belt and Road project in Pakistan financed by a third party and not by China. But why is Beijing hesitating? Our next report tells you.
Pakistan's biggest Belt and Road project has a new financier, and it's not China. The Asian Development Bank is stepping in. It will fund the Main Line 1 railway upgrade. This is Pakistan's largest infrastructure project under the Belt and Road Initiative. The total cost, $6.7 billion. It connects Karachi in the south to Peshawar in the north, a stretch of 1,726 kilometers. China was supposed to fund it. That's how the deal was planned under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. But now, China is stepping aside. Beijing has pulled back from the project, and the ADB is taking over a key portion. A $2 billion loan has been lined up. It will go towards the Karachi to Rori section. That's 480 kilometers of track. A senior Pakistani official confirmed the loan to Nikkei Asia. This marks a shift. For the first time, a core Belt and Road project in Pakistan will be funded by a multilateral bank, not by China. And the shift is not symbolic. It reflects deeper cracks in China's economic engagement with Pakistan. So why is China backing off? There are three major reasons. 1. Financial risk. Islamabad owes over $1.5 billion to Chinese power firms. Payments have been delayed repeatedly. That's made Beijing wary of fresh exposure. 2. Rising security concerns. Since 2021, at least 21 Chinese nationals have been killed in Pakistan. Most were working on Belt and Road projects. Beijing sees these attacks as a serious threat. 3. Policy confusion in Islamabad. The ML1 railway has been redesigned several times. Chinese planners submitted feasibility reports, but Pakistan's ministries kept sending them back. The cost has gone up, down, and back up again, from $6.8 billion, initially, to $9.85 billion in 2022, then back to $6.7 billion in 2023, all on Pakistan's request. Beijing sees this as a red flag. Now, China is signaling a change. During his visit to Islamabad in August, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made a key statement. He welcomed third-party participation in the ML1 project. That's a clear shift. Until now, China insisted on being the sole funder. Back in 2017, Pakistan even rejected an ADB offer, because China wanted full control. Now, the ADB is in, and the rules are changing. Unlike China, the ADB brings transparency. It follows global norms for procurement and bidding. There will be no government-to-government deals. Contracts must go through competitive bidding. That means Chinese companies can no longer be handpicked, and that's another reason why Beijing may be stepping back. Experts say this could mark a turning point. China's model, under CPEC, relied on closed-door deals. It brought in Chinese contractors and loans with fewer conditions. That model is now under pressure. The ADB brings more scrutiny and slower processes, but also more credibility and less risk of political fallout. Does this mean Pakistan is moving away from China? Not exactly. Islamabad still calls China its iron brother, but the partnership is evolving. Pakistan is turning to other lenders, because China is becoming more selective. Experts call it a rethink in Beijing. A shift from big infrastructure to more cautious, diversified investment. And for Pakistan, it's a test of choices. The Belt and Road gave Pakistan roads, ports, and power plants, but it also added debt. Now, the ADB is offering a different path. One that comes with oversight and accountability. It may be slower, but for Pakistan, it could be more sustainable. The Mainline 1 project is back on track, but with a new engine behind it. Not made in China, but backed by Asia's Development Bank.
Our next story tonight is about the Strait of Malacca. This is a narrow stretch of water falling between Indonesia and Malaysia. It connects the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. The Malacca Strait is a vital corridor for global trade, and it is heavily guarded by what's called the Malacca Straits Patrol. This is a coordinated effort by Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. But given the strait's proximity to the Andaman Sea, India wants to be part of the security measures, and now Singapore has backed it. Also, India's interest in the strait is not new. Our next report has more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hosted his Singaporean counterpart Lawrence Wong. The two leaders inked several key agreements to deepen cooperation in artificial intelligence, space, and digital asset innovation. But they also talked about something else: the Malacca Strait. This is a narrow sea lane, which links the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. Every year, grain, crude oil, and all kinds of commodities pass through this corridor on approximately 90,000 ships, making up an estimated 40% of global trade. Above these ships is one of the busiest air routes in the world, and below them is a dense network of internet cables that keep the world online. And this is why the Malacca Strait is one of the most vital and strategic corridors in the world. And this sea lane is crucial for New Delhi, whether in terms of economics and connectivity or just general regional goodwill. And this is not just because a substantial share of Indian trade passes through it, but also because of the strait's proximity to the Andaman Sea, which is why India has been on edge. In case an adversary militarizes the Andaman Sea or establishes permanent military facilities in the Indian Ocean, it could be a critical issue for both India and the region. This is the reason why New Delhi has sought to play a greater role in the strait's security. And this is where the Malacca Strait Patrol comes in. This is a coordinated effort to implement measures to boost security in the region. It includes, for countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. They hold regular meetings to improve coordination. They continuously assess ongoing operations. They also engage in intelligence sharing and real-time information exchange on suspicious activities or incidents. This enables them to take timely and effective action in case of a threat. This effort happens through three key components: the Malacca Strait Sea Patrol, the Eyes in the Sky, which combines maritime and air patrols, and the Intelligence Exchange Group. All three groups are critical in ensuring security in the Malacca Strait. And being a key regional player, as well as a closely related party, New Delhi has wanted to play its part in the patrol for some time now. So as India charts a detailed roadmap for the future with its partnership with Singapore, its largest trade partner in Southeast Asia, the two took a significant step forward in regional maritime collaboration. Singapore said that it acknowledges with appreciation India's interest in the Malacca Straits Patrol. New Delhi says that the talks are underway, and it is expected that there will be some kind of coordination to ensure that there is synergy among the current members of the Malacca Straits Patrol and India as a contiguous state, which is next to the Malacca Straits. So as regional dynamics continue to evolve, India's growing engagement in the Malacca Strait Patrol signals a clear intent to contribute to a more secure, stable, and connected Indo-Pacific. With stronger maritime ties on the horizon, the stage is set for deeper collaboration and a shared commitment to safeguarding one of the world's most vital trade arteries.
In a world as divided as ours, it seems we can hardly agree on anything. Borders, languages, politics, cultures. We are divided by the lines on our maps and the beliefs in our minds. But if there's one thing most countries share, it is this: unsafe air. Nearly every country on earth has dirty air, and it is not just making us cough. It is hurting our bodies and damaging our minds. A new report is out. It says that air pollution drives devastating forms of dementia that destroys our nerve cells. And this is extremely concerning. But it is only one of the many ways in which dirty air is hurting us. Here's a report.
Forgetting where the keys are kept, why the fridge door was opened in the first place, or even the name of someone close to you. It's difficult to say when the signs creep in, and when they take over countless lives. But one thing is certain: dementia can be a debilitating illness. It is one of the major causes of disability and dependency among people, and the 7th leading cause of death globally. Tens of millions of people the world over live with dementia, and for decades, Researchers have believed that mostly two factors are behind this disease: genes and age. But in recent years, a third factor has emerged as a major contributor: air pollution. A new report is out. It says that exposure to dirty air can drive devastating forms of dementia. The fine particulate in the air can trigger the formation of toxic clumps of protein in our body. And as the toxins spread through the brain, they destroy nerve cells in their path, birthing diseases. And this is not the only way that air pollution harms our brains. Research shows that it reduces our ability to focus on everyday tasks. It increases the risk of depression, anxiety, and psychosis. It reduces cognitive functioning and causes structural brain damage. Air pollution is also bad for our bodies. It affects everything from our skin to our nerves to our organs. It increases the risk of asthma, pulmonary disease, lung cancer, heart attacks, stroke, and other diseases. Air pollution can cut our lifespans. It affects us throughout our life. Studies show that young children who are exposed to high levels of air pollution are more likely to experience poor health outcomes later in life. And yet, nearly every country on Earth has dirty air. Only 7 countries in the world meet the World Health Organization's guidelines on air quality, including Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, and Estonia. Meanwhile, the most polluted countries are Chad, Bangladesh, Pakistan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and India, where pollution is at least 10 times higher than recommended limits. These are the worst defaulters. But across most of the world, the air we breathe is killing us slowly. Thanks to fossil fuel burning, vehicular traffic, and of course, climate change. It has only made the situation worse by exacerbating wildfires and other extreme weather events.
Air quality respects no boundaries. We have seen is that fires that come from as far afield as Canada have made it not the fires, the pollution have made it across the Atlantic into the European continents. Air quality and climate change have to be tackled as interconnected issues. They cannot be tackled separately because they share sources and because the components that affect air pollution affect climate change and vice versa.
Merci. Tackling air pollution demands a policy shift. With more funding for renewable energy projects and public transport, infrastructure built to encourage walking and cycling, and bans on burning farm waste. Until there is real change, virtually everyone will continue to breathe air that destroys our body and mind. The science is clear, and the cost of inaction is too high. It's about time that clear air is not treated as a luxury, but a basic human right.
What do you do when you don't get a seat at the cool table? You either ignore and move on, or you throw a fit. We all know what Donald Trump is doing. This week, pictures went viral from the SCO summit in China. Prime Minister Modi standing together with Presidents Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Of course, Donald Trump saw them. And he has now reacted after a full 4 days, saying that America lost India and Russia to China. Looks like a case of sour grapes. And the internet was quick to notice.
जवाब हमारे अगल बगल और पीछे खड़ा बहादुर नाम है हमारा
now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Japan, a 102-year-old man becomes the oldest person to summit Mount Fuji. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, divers jump off a famous bridge during a competition. In Chile, penguins win hearts as they are released after rehabilitation. And finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1972, the Munich Olympics massacre took place. Terrorists attacked the Olympic village in the German city during the Summer Olympic Games. They took several hostages and eventually killed 11 people. We are leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.
Tiene el pico de tijera que se llama.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
geschäftsführenden Direktoren,
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka karj mo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
4 兆ドル以上も
Portuguese,
por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select the language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.